blurp, de blurp, de blurp, de
Nailed it.
doo 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 doo
Well,
doo.
well, it's time for a tradition unlike any other. Welcome, friends. Uh, this is Finest Sports Football Happy Hour. I'm your host, Connor, and I'm joined as always by Matt, Teddy, and Mike. What's going on, boys?
Everything.
Living
It
the
was a
dream.
super exciting week in the NFL. Not so much for Mike and I because our teams stay consistent and we do what we do. But for the rest of the
Lose.
NFL, it was pretty interesting and intriguing for sure. But first things first, let's get into what we're drinking this evening, since this is happy hour for us. Mike, or actually Teddy, what are you drinking, pal?
So I'm finishing up a glass of red wine. It is the Spoken Barrel. It's from Washington, but is modeled after a Bordeaux from Costco. Affordable, but quite delicious. It has to be my favorite. I love a red Bordeaux, like left bank kind of style. Very
Sure.
like a nice mix, a little bit earthy, but like it has a strong French oak undertone. This is about the best one I found from outside of the region. So props to Spoken Barrel and props to Costco for having consistently high quality products. Also rocking a pumpkin ale, the whole hog, which I'd never seen before. So after I finish up this glass, I just saw it available as something I had never had. It outperformed the pumpkin, the Dogfish Head, I guess, alternative, which was my point counterpoint. But this did 92 on Rate My Beer or Beer Raters or whatever it was, Beer Advocate. Where the Dogfish Head did 89. So I was like, all right, I'll roll with it. It's good. It's not my favorite. It's no Schlafly, but it is. It's good.
It looks like you're pushing for a Costco sponsorship here over the last couple of weeks.
That was strong on Costco.
Yeah. From Costco.
You had the mixed scotch, right? The blended scotch.
Oh yeah.
Too, so.
Yeah, that's the that was a 12-year aged. I have to say though, I did have the like Johnny Walker Black, like proper, the double black actually proper, and I was like, this is way better. So maybe I was a little bit too high on it. Maybe I need to drink a French Bordeaux and I'll change my tune entirely. But,
right.
But you know, while I'm here, this is good enough.
Fair enough.
Works.
Maddie, what are you drinking about?
I got a Anchor Steam Porter, which is good. I've never had the porter before. I usually just go for I go for the regular Anchor Steam, but then also they do a Christmas ale, which is fucking unbelievable.
It changes every year. Love it.
Yeah. And I'll get back to the porter in a minute. But when I was perusing the liquor store aisles today, there's already Christmas ales on the shelf. Have you guys seen this? Yes. Shiner has a Christmas one out, and then Bell's has a Christmas one out already, a Scotch ale. And I love Christmas ales, but like we're still in fall, we're still in Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to keep everybody rigid to the seasons, but like these beers are still really good too. Let's enjoy them during this period. Anyway, the porter is really good, drinkable, malty. Everything that Anchor Steam does is good. So I'm in.
I like their. They have an IPA, right? Pretty famous. Yeah. Is the porter like one of those like really like aggressive alcohol forward kind of porters, or is it more of like a really rich, dark coffee?
I would say it's not alcohol forward. It kind of drinks like it's got kind of like a carbonated, crunchy, almost like Barks like bite to it. So it's really
bite.
That's right. So it's pretty drinkable. It's not too heavy on malt or chocolate or anything. It's just really easy sipper. So it's kind of like a good like bridge like on a warm weather fall day. I'm kind of into this.
Cool.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm getting into a double dry hopped IPA called Money by Barrier Brewing. It's a pretty tasty brew.
Cool label.
Yeah. They do some cool stuff. They're from Oceanside, New York. And last but not least, Mike, what are you drinking, brother?
Okay. Well, I am partaking in what I believe they call Sober October. So I am taking a little bit of a break, but I am enjoying a blood orange San Pellegrino, which is quite delicious. So I will not be getting tuned up with you guys tonight.
Well, that's kind of a letdown. I mean, I guess good for you, but
no, blood orange San Pellegrino. I love it this time of year. It's delightful.
That's
Well,
that's like the seltzer water mixed with fruit juice, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
shit's pretty. That shit's really good.
Really good.
it is. Yeah,
It's
it is
delicious.
good.
The grapefruit
Believe
one's
me, I'm very tempted to put some vodka in it right now. So.
No, I got you, man. Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yes, you do.
All right.
We'll all get home safe tonight.
Well, now that we've covered what we're imbibing or not imbibing, I guess, when it comes to alcohol, Teddy, you want to do your talk here, pal?
Yeah. Okay. This is good. This is a nice like segue because there's something, fresh on my brain. We cut the fanboy section from our show. So as a Steelers fan, I have a little something on my chest. I just caught a mosquito between my thumb and
Cool.
forefinger.
Wow.
That was
is
impressive.
Right.
Okay, but this is one of those where I want to assign the teams first. So let's hit it. So Mike, you're going to be the Chargers.
Okay, I like it.
Matt, roll with the Bengals.
Okay. Don't like it.
And Connor, let's go with the Cowboys. I had to give you each two picks. Like they gave Matt the Broncos again. They gave Connor the Jets.
Yeah.
It's not going to be right. So the Cowboys is a good answer for you.
Woof.
Okay. So as I mentioned, like I'm a salty Steelers fan right now because I didn't get to watch football for my team this past weekend because we had a surprise bye week. And now there's rumors that they might even go ahead and make the Titans forfeit next week. And I'm just like, you move our game, but now they might have to forfeit. And like, so basically the prompt is, surprise. So what's one surprise, good or bad, that could change the course of your team's season dramatically? Just like anything, just surprise. And it doesn't even need to be, it could be fantastical too. It doesn't need to be realistic necessarily, but that's the prompt. All right. So there was one other thing I wanted to get off my chest while I have a couple seconds that people are here is there's all this talk about turf, about stadium turf, and whether or not that's injuring players and this MetLife thing and the curse. And I'm a little torn on it because there have been a lot of injuries at MetLife. But when I think about it, about like, playing sports, I feel like the grass field always made me more nervous because of like the potential for divots and just uneven natural things. And like the footing on turf always felt really good. And, you play faster on turf and it just felt like a cleaner game. So the verdict's still out on whether turf or grass is better. I guess like professionally sodded grass is probably the best. But at the end of this, all I really want to do is give a nice shout out to the Death Star and the Las Vegas Raiders field. That pure grass field looks dynamite on TV. It looks like an absolutely perfect condition. So props on their groundskeeping crew. And that's it. That's time. That's 60 seconds, guys.
Yeah.
So, any takers?
I'll go first.
All right. Mike, let's hit it.
Okay, so something that could drastically change the Chargers 2020 season. And I'm going to go with something that's going to come up very soon. Beating the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football in New Orleans. Now, for those of you who got to watch the Chargers game this past Sunday, they nearly beat a very good Tampa Bay team. And Justin Herbert has not only the fans, but the entire NFL believing in him. If he can go into New Orleans and beat the Saints, which I think is very possible, right? He's thrown for nearly 300 yards in all three of his starts. He's completing over 71% of his passes. His passer rating is over 100 points, okay? And he has just been lighting it up in the NFL, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later. But the big thing is, if he can go into New Orleans and beat the Saints, that is going to have everyone believing in this kid. It's going to have everyone giving the utmost confidence for him going forward and the Chargers. I know that was terrible English there at the end, but
cool. I mean, that feels like that doesn't even require a force majeure to make it happen. That's just sort of something they could just do. But
yeah,
it'd be spicy. It'd be fun. Give him that confidence because that's what he needs, right? At this point, like a big win.
Yeah. He's there. He's on the precipice of it. And I think given New Orleans' faulty defense and how well he played against Tampa Bay's great defense, I think is very possible.
Right on.
Okay.
All right. Connor, Matt?
I'll go next just to because I think Matt's going to have some better points, and I'm going to get mine out of the way because I got dealt a turd here. So
hit it.
All right. What surprise could improve the Cowboys or drastically change the Cowboys season? So two things jump to mind really quickly. McCarthy has to step down because of a health issue, and Jimmy Johnson takes over for the team and finds a way to win, or McCarthy gets possessed by the ghost of Tom Landry. And regardless, whoever comes into calling plays or running that team, they start focusing on defense a little bit more, and they hold that as a imperative part of the game and winning games. And they just need drastic help on that side of the ball. So anything to help them with that, I think would drastically change the season for the Cowboys.
All right. I mean, yeah, the idea that like McCarthy would self-select, like that would be a surprise. And maybe that's the problem. I think we're going to get into that later too, right? I think that's on the itinerary. So, yeah, I don't know what you do about that. What a terrible defense. I mean, at least like the performance thus far. I can't speak to the talent or anything necessarily. It seems like they have some pieces, but
I mean, they could get healthy with like Van Der Esch, and I don't know. There was a couple articles that I just touched on, but that doesn't mean that the schemes or the effort and the attention to detail on defense is going to change at all. So
what is Van Der Esch's injury? Is there a timetable on him?
They were saying that
collarbone?
Not labor. No,
yes,
not a labor.
collarbone.
Yep. Collarbone. Okay.
So probably half the season.
I think he's got about maybe 3 or 4 more weeks left.
Okay. So yeah, about half the season. Okay. Cool. Matt?
Oh. Okay.
And hit it.
So one drastic thing that could happen to change the Bengals season is an injury to Joe Burrow. This is first of all, he's their only hope of winning any games this year. Second of all, he's the only hope of the franchise because you can't start over at this point. Joe Burrow has so much promise, and you're already thinking about the future with him. But here's the thing: is that we kind of talked about it with Tyrod and Justin Herbert. Is that one reason why you might want to start Tyrod is to protect Justin Herbert from himself. Joe Burrow plays behind a terrible offensive line. He has been sacked 15 times in 4 games. That like just the amount of times that he's getting hit, and that's not even including knockdowns or the times that he's scrambling and he's just taking bad hits because he's a young player. There is a possibility that he could get hurt, and then that would just change the fortune not only of this year but possibly of the future for the Bengals.
That's such a morose surprise. All right, everyone's trying to tank the season here. Yeah, I agree.
I thought about like what could help the Bengals, and like they could bring in one offensive lineman. Realistically, that's not going to help them. And they could bring in like Antonio Brown. They've already got 3 decently producing wide receivers.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon just had a breakout game, so there's just not a lot that they could do this year right now to vastly improve their fortunes.
Well, on that high note, Matt, why don't we
Jesus Christ, you ask me a question and then I answer it, and then you rip me apart for it.
I was just hoping everyone would have more positive spin on it.
I mean, I was talking about the supernatural and other shit, and you just like went, Joe Burrow died.
I had a pretty positive spin, I thought. Right?
Joe Burrow could throw 1 million touchdowns. That would be so great for the Bengals.
Thank you. Now go into 1st and 10. All right, I'm ready. Happy hour ever. Jesus.
This one, Mike's fault.
Another beer.
I didn't realize it was a requirement to be happy during this. I like to be depressed. All right, 1st and 10 rumors, news stories, notes from around the league. Number 1, game of the week last week for me was Bucks Chargers, probably a lot for you guys. And it had to do, of course, with the two quarterbacks who were playing. Justin Herbert, 20 of 25 and 3 touchdowns, and Tom Brady, almost 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. We'll get into Herbert a little bit later. But Teddy, which was the more impressive performance between those two guys? And Herbert's the starter from here on out, right?
The first question, I will say Brady. I wanted to not believe it. Like this was the first time it looked like vintage. Like Tom Brady will pick you apart if you give him the opportunity to, and he made it work. But yeah, Herbert, I don't see how you can. Yeah, there's no argument. Like protect him from himself. These things don't fly in the locker room. Like I don't know how you would position that. Like we're going to roll with Tyrod just to give Herbert more. But he's shown so much spark. He's got such a great release. He's just like he's performing inches differently. I don't know like how to describe it. It's like it just doesn't look like anything I've seen before. Or maybe there are quarterbacks, but wow, he's like it's not textbook necessarily, but it's fun and it gives that offensive spark. So yeah, he's a starter, but I'm going to give the Brady the win.
They were both impressive, and both like good defenses they were going up against, which made I think even more impressive.
If not that for that pick 6 by Brady, that was ridiculous.
To another rookie quarterback, but one that we're not talking about today. There are rumblings in Miami that Tua might get the start. Not this week, but maybe in the future. Dolphins coach Brian Flores named Fitzpatrick the starter this week. He's been okay, about 70% completion. 4 touchdowns, but 5 picks. The Dolphins probably aren't going anywhere this year. I think they're a little bit disappointing, given the hopes that we had for him. Connor, I know that you're a big Tua guy. You're a big Bama guy. What are your expectations for him when and if he gets into the season? What's realistic to expect out of him?
I think he adds a different look for their offense. I don't necessarily think they'll be any more successful. Fitzpatrick, I mean, I don't know what his numbers are this year. I just know that his old tune was always, I will throw touchdowns, I will do good things, but I will constantly outweigh the good things with bad things like timely interceptions. So I think you expect more of the same, but more obvious like inexperience from Tua.
Mm-hmm. We'll touch on this also in a bit, but the biggest news of the week so far has been that Bill O'Brien got canned in Houston. We all called it. We called it very early. I think probably as soon as the schedules were released.
We did it on our schedule release show.
That's great.
Good for us.
We called it the Bill O'Brien farewell tour.
That's right. I think Texans fans wanted it. It sounded like they wanted it. It sounds like J.J. Watt wanted it too. If you're hearing reports of him yelling at Bill O'Brien in practice last week. They had a brutal opening schedule. Bill O'Brien's been there for a while. They've had success. Mike, are you okay with like the timing of this, or did you think that Bill O'Brien maybe deserved a little bit more leeway given their tough schedule to start the year?
I don't think you can give him any leeway considering everything all the positions that he appointed to himself. He got, he lost a terrible game, appointed himself as general manager. Then after the first 3 weeks of the season, appointed himself as play caller. So at one point, it's like this guy is just trying to take everything. It's like, dude, you are not Bill Belichick, nor will you ever be, right? So stop trying to be him. This is well-deserved because the Texans realized that they gave him too much power and they had to do a reset. And guess what? It's going to take a long time for them to reset because they are missing a lot of talent and a lot of draft picks over the next couple of years.
No doubt. All right, moving on. These next 3 questions, a little bit different this week. There was a really interesting story by Kevin Seifert on ESPN.com this week. A really good piece of data journalism looking into the amount of scoring that's been going on, the amount of flags that have been thrown. And so I kind of want to work through that with just some of the key takeaways and ask you guys each something here. So the first thing, Teddy, the NFL officiating leadership team, which instructs officials what to do, what to call. They told officials to cut down on flags this year. And so offenses have had about half as many penalty yards this year than last in the first 4 weeks. Offensive holding, this is insane, is down 60% from last year. In this time. It's something I noticed. I'm wondering if you noticed it too. And Are you okay with it? Because you don't really hear a lot of complaints about the pace of the game right now.
Yeah, I did notice it. Is the first part. Like the games felt clean, and I don't know if I wasn't sure if I was just watching the wrong ones because I can only watch a handful every weekend. But I love it. I have always been a proponent of like let the dudes play. Like if it's egregious, flag it. But that's what they're there for, not like these ticky tacky sort of things. Question though, if and rebuttal, is it offensive yards like backwards, like holding, or is it like defensive, like pass interference, like offenses are gaining less yards, 60%?
Well, we'll get to that. It's the amount penalized against an offense.
Against the offense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, football's more fun without penalties. I don't know why we got to drag it out. So
yeah, perfect answer, because that sets up the next two questions perfectly. So despite total penalties being at all-time lows this year, defensive pass interference is the highest it's been in 20 years. So they're calling more defensive pass interference. So Mike, this just seems like the next nail in the coffin for defenses in the NFL. Have they gone too far? If this becomes the norm, do you hope there's some kind of correction later in the year?
I really do, because they're leaning a little bit too far to the offense, which is great. I mean, we're all liking it, but I mean, it's some of the stuff is like pretty ticky tacky, and the call that the officiating heads made to the officials is clear and obvious, right? It's not always that way. And sometimes it's going against the offense and they're not calling it. They want offenses to score. They realize that now when people are watching, that ratings are more important than ever. People want to watch offense. People don't want to watch a 10-6 game, although I do, but the masses don't.
So that brings up the thesis of this article, again, by Kevin Seifert on ESPN.com, and I encourage everybody to check it out. All of this has resulted in scoring being up 16% from last year, and games are about a minute shorter than they were last year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. So the kicker of all of this is that focus groups that were put together by the XFL found two things. They want fans want quicker games, and they want more scoring. So the NFL has really just lifted what the XFL found, fans wanted. Connor, you are the least NFL obsessed of the four of us. You're more of a college guy. Do you support, this sort of XFL-ification of the NFL, making it more exciting, or do you kind of wish the NFL would go a different route?
I think it does a disservice to the history of the NFL, because you're going to see more and more wide receivers put up ridiculous numbers, and then you're not going to really appreciate the things that Jerry Rice and guys before him did. And also, like, you're going to see insane contracts for DBs that can actually play, like, because the difference between somebody, the elite are only going to have to become even more elite. But it's a product, and the casual fan wants to be drawn to it. And this is not something that's they already have the three of you locked in. So, I mean, they don't need to worry about you. They're trying to draw on so it's just good business sense, honestly.
Fair point. All right, now we're entering, with a minute and a half left, the Finest Sports lightning round, as it was last week. Teddy, let's talk about Patriots Chiefs from last week. Pat's nation is falling all over themselves to say, well, if we just had Cam, we would have won that game. First of all, like, what would have happened if Cam had never signed in New England? Like, that team would have been fucking terrible. But secondly, do you believe they actually have a shot if and when they play Kansas City again in the playoffs and Cam plays? Did you see enough from them?
Yeah, definitely. I do totally hear that. They are like, what were they thinking before Cam? Like, Cam fell into their laps at like basically a minimum salary. I preached on this over the summer. Like, of course, like it's gonna, and that's exactly my theory. Yeah. They got Cam Newton, of course they did, to replace Tom Brady, of course they did, and they're gonna make it work. Belichick is the greatest coach. They've got an awesome scheme, and they have other players there. There's a good system, a good culture, and Cam's a very talented dude. And I think that you can't ever count him out. Like just like Mahomes or Brady, he's a player.
Eagles beating the Niners was easily the most shocking outcome of the week. 49ers are banged up, but so are the Eagles. Connor, does this change the way, that outcome, does that change the way you think about either team at this point?
I don't think it drastically changes how I feel about the Niners as much as, I mean, the Eagles playing in their division, any type of momentum that you could possibly get in that dog shit division. I think it could definitely change the way things operate over in Philadelphia. So, or just how the vibe is. So I think I'm definitely riding a little bit higher on the Eagles after that win.
And Mike, you get Panthers, Cardinals. I mean, talk about two teams that are just really hard to peg right now. Both are 2-2. Panthers have won 2 in a row without Christian McCaffrey, and the Cards have lost 2 in a row after getting off to a pretty hot start. Do you feel good about either of them, and do you feel better about one more than the other?
I actually really like the way that Panthers are playing football. I've been not for the Panthers, as you guys have heard me talk over the last couple of weeks about them, just as far as what Matt Rule did in the draft. But their defense is actually playing really well, and Teddy Bridgewater is really starting to take a hold of that offense. And I've always loved Teddy Bridgewater. And hey, man, did you see him take off on that scramble? Teddy really doesn't do that because he's more of a pocket passer. So it was really nice to see him get out of there. But the Cards, it's really disheartening to see that Kyler Murray is throwing interceptions and having turnovers every game, despite having all that offense there. And we kind of saw this coming with Cliff Kingsbury. He relies on, it's not a traditional offense. He relies on the receivers to get open as opposed to having timing routes and actual schemes. So it's a completely different system than we're seeing in the NFL.
Last question. The Titans apparently practiced last week. Mike, you alluded to this after being told not to do so, explicitly told not to do so, amid their 20-player plus at this point outbreak. NBC Sports and others have reported that a penalty for such violation could be historic. It's pretty fucked up for the Titans to do that, especially because they screwed the Steelers, Teddy, as you mentioned, and Steelers players seems pretty pissed off about having a week 4 bye and basically only 3 days off. If this comes out to be true, and it seems like it is, what's a fair punishment for the Titans? Is it draft picks? Is it forfeiting a game? Is it forfeiting the season? What is it?
I think forfeiting a game is pretty fair, considering that what could happen and the other ramifications that could stem from that.
The only thing I don't like about forfeiting a game is that it benefits whoever they're playing, right? Could you just give them a loss or something? Could you figure that out? Without giving a team an undue benefit?
Man, this is tough to figure out the schedules and what's fair and what's not.
You could just take their final record and then put an asterisk on it and say that you drop a point. It's like goal differential or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Why not just eliminate the game? I mean, it still sort of benefits the team they're playing, sort of, but if the Steelers are, and if 13-2, optimistically, or 9-6, let's say, that seems okay. The game just doesn't exist anymore, just poof, gone. At least for the opposing team. Maybe you can make it disappear for the opposing team and give them a loss.
Maybe. It doesn't sound like we've come up with any good solutions, but
no.
But this is probably what they're all talking about, right? What is the most equitable, fair thing to do?
And again, as a salty Steelers fan, I just do want to float this out because the segment's done, right?
It's done.
Okay. If they have to forfeit this week, shouldn't they also have to forfeit last week? What's the difference besides the fact that there's no contingency plan because the fact that the Steelers have relocated their game with the Titans?
Right. I think they would definitely have to.
If your team can't have the personnel, if it can't field the personnel that they need to because of violations of the rule based on the current restrictions, then just because there's a contingency plan doesn't mean it's fair. But also, right, it's not fair for the Steelers to get a win either. They should play the game.
For sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we're going to go right into the game plan here. I hope we're all ready. So first question, Dwayne Haskins is now 3rd on the depth chart for the Washington football team. What will this offense look like with Kyle Allen or backup Alex Smith starting? And you know what, Teddy, let's start with you, buddy.
Well, maybe it'll look like what it's supposed to, because I think this is about the position on the depth chart that I would put Dwayne Haskins. I don't have a firm grasp on where Alex Smith's health is, but like that seems like the obvious option if the dude can play. Obviously, he's coming back from the traumatic injury, but he'll make the whole thing hum. I think it's going to look a lot the same though. Unfortunately, maybe more Gibson, like more run game, just like get it out of the QB's hands. But like, I don't know, McLaurin's a real threat, and I think Kyle Allen has a better chance of hitting him.
Okay. Diaz?
Yeah, I think the offense is actually going to look a little bit better. Dwayne Haskins, I mean, the whole knock on him is that he hasn't really been a student of the game. And it could also be, I'm hearing rumors that this could also be a locker room type thing. Dwayne Haskins is from an old regime. You have a new GM, a new head coach, and the only reason Dwayne Haskins was drafted where he was because Dan Snyder was friends with his father or something like that. I forget what it was, but it was just absolutely ridiculous. You know that Alex Smith is the best quarterback that they have on their roster. He's proven it throughout his career. And Kyle Allen, he played very well for a bad Panthers team last year. If you take out some of the outliers, which would be San Francisco, where he just absolutely got demolished, and Atlanta last year, not this year, he played extremely well. I mean, he put up 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, over 250 yards against New Orleans Saints, who had a very good defense last year. Same thing with Houston, played very well. I mean, the guy had 80 quarterback rating with all that stuff and 62% completion percentage, way better than Haskins.
Yeah, and especially because he came out of nowhere, right? And there weren't a lot of expectations for him. He didn't have like years of repetition behind him. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought Kyle Allen played well enough to win the job in Carolina. I thought Cam Newton did enough, obviously, to win the job in Carolina, but Matt Rule decided to go to part ways, but both times. We don't know what the Redskins offense could look like with Kyle Allen because of a point that I think you made, Ted. We just don't know what we just don't know what Dwayne Haskins was seeing. We don't know how he was operating the offense. Kyle Allen having familiar with Ron Rivera helps. And so I think he's a much better shot than Alex Smith, who I just don't know if you can put him out on a football field right now. I'm rooting for the guy, but he almost died from a leg injury. What are we doing?
All right, I'm going to give the nod to Diaz there, giving us touching on the drafting of Haskins by Snyder and Allen. I thought those were good points in Allen's performance in Carolina.
Tasty tidbit.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into what was more impressive as far as the rookie campaign so far. Burrow in Cincinnati or Herbert in Los Angeles. I almost said San Diego. Wow. Let's go with Matt. Take it away.
They're both impressive. My guess is that you guys are.
Question is, what's more impressive?
I know.
Just want to clarify.
I'm trying to buy time to decide what you guys are going to say, so I can come up with something different. I think it's good. I think Burrow is the most impressive, right? Because the expectations were so low for Justin Herbert that if he did anything, yeah, it's going to be impressive. But the expectations were sky high for Joe Burrow, and he's met them, and he's actually exceeded them. I mean, that team is scoring 30 points a game now. He just won his first game last week and tied the week before. Like coming from LSU and all the receivers that they had there, you might expect that maybe he got into some bad habits or something. But no, he's just brought his game, like his own confidence and his style of play, to the NFL, and it's adapting seamlessly. Brand new scheme, all this new terminology, faster defense doesn't phase him whatsoever. Expectations don't phase him. I'm so impressed with Joe Burrow.
Okay. Teddy.
Well, if you were trying to do what I wasn't going to say, you fail. I am wholly on the Burrow train, and it's a similar thesis, except that I'm going to say it's not necessarily even the expectations. It was just like all of everything that was put on his shoulders. Like he's carrying around so much, and like, yes, some of that is expectation, but they were like by the way, you're the face of the franchise. You're the future. You're everything that we ever could have wanted. And the dude has been playing impeccably, and he hasn't said anything wrong. He's tough as nails. Like, I can't believe the hits he's taking because he's playing through a porous offensive line, and like, but he gets up and he makes ridiculous throws. Like, and I mean, I was quaking in my boots before the season, saying I'm worried that this dude is the dude. Like, we also have that on record. We should maybe just do like a how good we are at prognosticating episode. But like, I was quaking in my boots, and like, this is exactly the guy I thought he might be, and this is terrifying. Like, he looks every bit the part. That is way more impressive.
Diaz.
Yeah, you know, this is not to take away from like either of the guys, because I think they're neck and neck right now. But I'm just going to go with Herbert, because I think he's doing a little bit more with less. With all the injuries that they have going on in Los Angeles, Mike Williams is not there. Who's the third receiver? No one really knows. Hunter Henry's barely even being targeted. I mean, they're playing with undrafted free agents or 7th-round draft picks at wide receiver. Keenan Allen is a consummate professional. I mean, he's just awesome. And no one expected this from Justin Herbert. That's the thing. People expected Joe Burrow to come in and play like a first-round draft pick, which he is. Everyone, when it was coming up to the draft time, everyone's just like, I don't know about Justin Herbert. Can he lead? Is he going to be a leader? Look at everyone responding to Justin Herbert right now. He got tackled going out of bounds, and that dude got knocked out. Like, this kid is tough. And some of the throws that he made last week against the blitz, getting smacked in the face, right on the dime, in the hands, 60 yards down the field. I mean, this guy is blowing me out of the water, and I'm a fan instantly. I'm a fan of both of these guys. And if I could just kind of say one thing, these two guys going at it, you know who it hurts? Tua, because now the expectations for Tua are going to be this high for these guys, and I guarantee you he is not going to perform at their levels. I don't think he's capable of that.
Until he does. Right?
Until he does. Prove me wrong.
This has to be the most exciting group of quarterbacks, or like rookie quarterbacks we've had in a long time. Like, there were the 4 in the beginning of 2018, and like that got off to a slow start, and it's continued fairly slowly. Josh Allen looks good, but like, when was the last time we had these two guys playing like that good that early? Like, was it the Goff Wentz? I think even like that took a little bit longer, because Wentz
Goff took a year.
Rick Goff was like 3-13 the first year or something, and like kind of ugly because it was the Jeff Fisher Rams or something.
Like, I will go on record as saying this. These two so far are the most incredible rookie quarterbacks that I have seen in over 20 years in the NFL. They are blowing me out of the water.
Good. That doubles down.
Without a doubt.
Well, Luck and RG3 maybe would be a consideration.
Okay. Yeah, RG3 had an awesome rookie season.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna give Diaz the nod again there, just because I was not expecting much from Herbert, and actually not really expecting anything from the quarterback position in Los Angeles for the Chargers. And
San Diego.
I typically give guys from the Pac-12 the knock that they're soft, because I just think that conference in college football is just horrible as far as defense is concerned. But that kid is I've seen so much out of him. But I mean, Burrow I just had my eye on him all of last season, and going into this rookie year, I really expected him to go in and do a lot of things. But I disagree with Mike's notion that he's doing that Herbert's doing more with less. I think that team is built out really well with their defense, and their offensive line is superior to what Cincinnati's putting in front of Joe Burrow. So I will take that away from you, Mike, but you do get the nod on that one.
I appreciate that you're giving out pity points for the 0-4 Falcons.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Shots fired, except that's not necessarily quite directed at me. Okay. All right, boys. We already touched on him a little bit before, but what is next for Bill O'Brien? Diaz, I want you to start off.
Okay. Initially, I had thoughts of him going to be the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, considering that they're holding 2 of the Texans' draft picks next year. But I think Chan Gailey is actually doing a pretty good job there in Miami. I think it's inevitable that Josh Daniels leaves New England, and where does every former New England coach go? They go back to New England with their tail between their legs saying, hey, Bill, can you give me a job? Because I failed as a head coach. And ultimately, I think that's it. He may take a year off, but ultimately he ends up back in New England.
Okay. Teddy?
I think the Subaru dealership on 202 is looking for.
Oh, damn. Burn. Teddy.
Wow.
I don't know so much about his body of work, but everything I've heard is just distasteful to me. I don't understand what he brings to an organization. It feels like his teams, I mean, I guess the Texans have been like competitive for the last 5 years, so maybe there's something to be said for that, but like I don't see what his value is. And he's like took over the GM role, and their trades have been nonsense. They have no draft picks. Like he kind of got himself into a pickle. It's sort of kind of like not to say that Sean McVay is in the same class at all, but like the idea that like, oh, they're going to have cap problems in 3 years. It's like, did you not think about the future at all? Like at all? And to boot, your team that you have right now is 0-4. So like, I don't know. Put him on the back burner for 2 years and let's audition in 2022.
Matt?
I got two options. One is the one that's probably going to happen. He's going to go to a former Patriot coach team. I like Tennessee, maybe. That offense coordinator position has kind of been an accelerator for coaches. Matt LaFleur went to Green Bay. Now Arthur Smith just came out of nowhere and now has this great offense again. So maybe maybe he moves on and then Bill O'Brien moves in and works with Mike Vrabel. The idea that I'm really excited about is that he goes to Michigan. Jim Harbaugh either gets fired or he leaves, and maybe he goes to the Texans. Maybe he goes back to the pros, because I think Bill O'Brien probably felt like he had a lot of success at Penn State. Probably wants to stay in the Big Ten, likes that kind of homey, supportive atmosphere. And Michigan I think would jump at the chance to get Bill O'Brien, given the success that he had at Penn State, and then the kind of success that he had in Houston too. So I think that's a really good fit. And I would love Jim Harbaugh back in the NFL. Working with Deshaun Watson.
So Matt, you're getting the points here because I think where this guy is best suited for, as far as emotional decision making, impulsive but highly intense and passionate, I think that is much more suited for the college game than it is for the pro game. And I think if you look at all the most successful coaches in the college game, that they're all like lunatics, and I think and very, very, very impulsive. But you really can't overstate where Penn State was and what that guy did for that program, especially with bringing Hackenberg in and like setting that kid up, who ultimately didn't do very well in the pros. So I think the college game is suited for him. I think he actually will be pretty successful if he does go down to college, except I don't know how interested he is in recruiting. However, I really, really hope he doesn't go to Michigan, because I would love to see Jim Harbaugh continue to fail at that program for as long as possible. But yeah, Matt, I'm going to give you the points there, pal. Or the point singular there. All right. Okay, so Diaz, you currently have the lead 2-1 now. Okay, so it's clear Mike McCarthy hasn't changed his ways as a head coach in Dallas. So upsetting. What does he need to do to turn the Cowboys season around? Can it be turned around, fellas? Teddy, please tell us.
Change everything on defense. Like whatever you're doing, do the opposite. I legitimately just try different players, but like first of all, just change the scheme. Like do everything different. Offense is fine. It's good enough to win football games, but you have to just like invert the whole thing on the other side of the ball.
Okay. Diaz.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy, he needs to put his ego aside, because what the Cowboys lack is balance. They're first in passing yards and 23rd in rushing yards. And guess what? You have one of the top 3 backs in the NFL. And we said this was going to happen. if this is an episode about that, we said this was going to happen. Ezekiel Elliott is going to see a huge dip in production this year, and Mike McCarthy is the reason. Your defense is terrible. You gave Mike Nolan the defensive coordinator position, who, by the way, hasn't coached in 7 years. Where did he coach last? The Atlanta Falcons. Guess who had bottom of the league ranked defenses for 3 years? Mike Nolan. So yeah, let's give him a job. That makes absolute sense. Mike Nolan needs to be fired. You need to get someone else in there because he's antiquated, right? And here's what's going to happen to the Cowboys. Okay. What's going to happen is they're going to play the Giants, most likely going to win. Everyone's going to be like, oh, they're 2-3. Look at them go. They're going to play Arizona. They're going to play Washington. Things are going to get good. Then Philadelphia, and that's where shit's going to get real. Then Pittsburgh, then Minnesota, then Baltimore, and San Francisco, Philadelphia again, okay? So they're going to get a couple wins, but then they're going to get slammed back down to earth, okay? Yeah, it's great. We have the number one offense. Yeah, but you're 1-3, and you guys freaking lose because you're terrible. Oh, but Jerry, we have a really good offense. Yeah, but you can't win a fucking game, you fat fuck. Like, just put your ego aside and get the shit done. Run the ball. Feed Zeke. That's all you got to do.
Mike, how much more would you have appreciated this question had the Falcons beat the Cowboys in that one game? I feel like 0-4 would have been.
The Cowboys deserve to be 0-4 right now, and the Falcons deserve to be 0-17 right now, if that's even possible. Okay, but the Cowboys are not a good organization because all your yards are coming from prevent defenses. I mean, that's it. Everyone starts playing soft and they're just keeping everything in front of them. That's all it is.
Matt,
fix this. They could fix it. They could fire Mike Nolan. They could change everything on defense, as both of you guys have mentioned. And they could completely change their offensive philosophy. They don't have a good offense right now. They have a great garbage time offense, but they don't have a good NFL, we're gonna come out and compete from the minute the whistle blows offense. Ezekiel Elliott had 14 carries last game, and I get it. They were down 14 points, pretty quickly in that game. But you stick to the game script. The Packers have been down 14-3 in 2 games this year, and they stuck to the game script. They ran Aaron Jones. They ran Jamal Williams. That's what you do as a head coach. You trust in your system, and you don't just try to chase after these points. Now, I said they could do this. They could turn around. They could give the ball to Zeke Elliott. They're not going to do it. The Mike McCarthy experiment is over. He is who we thought he was. This is Mike McCarthy. We were hopeful. I was hopeful because I like him, that he had learned something in his basement with Mike Nolan and whoever else was down there studying tapes for a whole entire fucking year. They learned nothing. The offense is exactly the same as it was in Green Bay. And the last thing is that Aaron Rodgers, he always throws in these little barbs and whatever. He has mentioned every week, all 4 weeks, people ask him about the game plan. And he goes out of his way to say that Matt LaFleur is finding balance. He's finding a flow in his play calling. And they're relying on their system. They're relying on their plan. And I think that those are all. He wasn't saying that last year. I think it's all because he sees what Mike McCarthy is doing in Dallas.
Okay. We're going to have Matt gets the nod there. So now we got a tie with Matt.
0-4 is a position I'm very comfortable in based on our fantasy league. So,
all right.
I get
it. You know
what,
Teddy, but I'm going to throw you a bone here. And on the spot, I want you to come up with a question for the tiebreaker here.
Ooh.
Second Ted's talk? Oh,
yeah. You get 60 seconds, and then Teddy's going to talk about knitting, and then you.
Who knows what Teddy's going to talk about? Okay. I want to talk about the wide receivers. And I want to know the argument for the best wide receiving core in the league. That's the one that comes to mind because I feel like there's a lot of options. It's especially with 4 weeks of a body of work. It could be a few ways you could go here. It's not
Okay.
quite a direct question like the
No, you got it.
these essay ones, but like I'm punting here to give you guys some time to think.
Diaz, take it
Connor,
away.
throw a spin on it if you want. But
All right.
No,
Well,
I like
I'm
that. Best receiving core.
I live in Paris.
Best receiving core, I think you have to look at two things: availability and diversity. And right now, the only team that comes to mind when I think about that is the Seattle Seahawks with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, David Moore, who's a 7th round draft pick. You have 3 different guys that can do 3 different things very well, and they're all healthy. Which is really good. DK Metcalf is turning into a receiver that none of us thought he would be. Tyler Lockett was supposed to be just a punt returner and has turned into a true number 1 NFL wide receiver. He makes ridiculous catches, and his sideline grabs are just absolutely phenomenal. David Moore is just open, which, I mean, he better be when, NFL defenses are focusing so much on DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think they all catch the ball very well. They're all excellent route runners, even DK Metcalf, and they all have great hands and athleticism.
Matt.
Yeah, I was going to go with Seattle there, but I won't. I'm going to go with Dallas. I know we just spent about 5 minutes shitting all over the Cowboys, but it just goes to show you that having good skill players, having good wide receivers doesn't necessarily equate to having a good team. Amari Cooper is the number 1 fantasy player right now. And yeah, he had a really great week last week because Dak threw for 500 yards or whatever. But CeeDee Lamb is also on pace for one of the best rookie seasons of the year. And so that's just the statistics. But they also pass the eye test. I mean, CeeDee Lamb looks like he's only going to get bigger. He's only going to get faster. He gets open. He's a bona fide NFL wide receiver. Amari Cooper, we all thought he was due for a regression, but he's actually been steady. Like, he was kind of boomer bust last year. He's been really steady. And they still have Michael Gallup, who had a decent, who's had a decent moments, but still kind of needs to get going. So I mean, just on talent alone, they go 3 deep. That's pretty impressive for Dallas.
It was definitely a little bit fortuitous that I chose Diaz first, and I appreciate Matt for trying to be, a little bit controversial. But I'm going to give Diaz a nod here. So, Mike, well done, another victory here, and we're going to move right along.
With a special shout out for the Browns. I mean, they've got some talent on the outside over there. So
Cross my mind.
True.
Cross my mind.
Yeah, for sure. That's very
and even the Bills, the John Brown, Stephon Diggs combo is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Stephon Diggs could definitely be argued for one of the better signings in the offseason for the Bills. I mean, that team is.
I didn't think he'd have that big of an impact. I mean, it's totally changed their offense.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's going to go to a quarterback, but Stephon Diggs could be in consideration for an MVP vote just because of what that offense looks like with him there.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen, but.
Right, because at the end of the day, Josh Allen looks really good because he's there. So
because he's there.
But Josh Allen does look really good. Like,
he does.
We don't talk about him a whole lot on this program, but he plays some good football.
Yes.
Diaz, do you want to take us into 3rd and short, my man?
No, not really, but I will. So 3rd and short, we're going to be talking about Thursday night football. So we have on paper, it looks to be a good matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing in Chicago. Okay. Now, the matchup that I see here is going to be pretty tough. I'm going to cut out the tail of the tape this week and just kind of like keep the flow going here. So on the field, the most important matchup here is going to be the Buccaneers defensive line versus the Bears offensive line, which is just absolute dog shit. The Bears over the last 2 weeks, they've got like 50 yards. They've got less than 60 yards rushing, which you can't win. So if you're going to have to throw the ball against that Tampa Bay defensive line and their pass rushers, Nick Foles is going to get eaten alive. And with the fragility of Nick Foles, you could very well see Mitch Trubisky coming into this game. And I'm just being honest here. You have a good matchup between the Bears receivers and the kind of inability, but somewhat playmaking ability of Tampa Bay's corners. But I do like Antoine Winfield on the back end of that Tampa Bay defense. He's played really well and a very strong tackler. Reminds me a little bit of Cam Chancellor, just as hard as he hits. But then, of course, Chris Godwin is going to be out this game, so it's going to be the Mike Evans show and Scotty Miller again, and that other white receiver in Tampa Bay that Tom Brady likes to throw to, whatever his name is. So interesting matchup on paper, but the Bucs will completely dominate this game just because of their defensive line and how terrible the Bears offensive line is. So with that being said, let's take a look at some fantasy. And I believe, Ted, you wanted to go with the Bears this week.
I did. And I watched the Bears Colts game last night, and it was more interesting to me than some of the high scoring games. So I too can enjoy a 19-11 final score as opposed to like 41-35. There are a few takeaways I had that are fueling my fantasy perspective. First of all, Allen Robinson is awesome. That dude can play football, and he's just been on terrible teams, and it's unfortunate. Like, if you have him, just roll with him. He's a wide receiver 1 every week. He has been for 3, 4, 5 years, even on the Jaguars. That dude is awesome. I'm super excited also about Darnell Mooney. I thought that he showed up on the tape in a way that made him impossible to keep off the field. So I guess he's the rookie. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I was like, who is this number 11 guy? It was kind of the way I looked at it, and I had to Google his name basically. So very, very into that. I like the Nick Foles kind of loose cannon sort of thing. The offense started to hum when he started to just drop back and pass, which means that I am staying away from Montgomery. I'm not into the Bears run game. I don't think it's going to be any better on Thursday night than it was last week. These are both good defenses. So he's going to have to be Nick Foles in Super Bowl 50 to make this happen. And that's why he's my number 3 pick. If you have to stream a quarterback, if you have Aaron Rodgers and you have to put someone in this week, which I do in one league, and I'm deciding between Kirk Cousins and Nick Foles, Nick Foles is looking okay.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Some of the matchups are going to be pretty good. I think points may be at a premium this week, but we'll see. There's still going to be a lot of receptions going around. So Matt, Buccaneers, who you watching?
Yeah, it's that was my first thought, that these two defenses are good and they're playing well. But every Thursday night game so far has just been a scoring bonanza. And I would lean that way. So I would start Tom Brady. I wouldn't be worried about playing the Bears defense. I guess that's the underscore to that. And with Leonard Fournette doubtful, and he might be ruled out by now. Roll with Ronald Jones. Mike Evans is banged up, so is Scotty Miller, but Chris Godwin is out, so I would feel fine going with either of those guys. Even though OJ Howard got put on IR, I still wouldn't go with Gronk. He's got the most he had in any game is 3 catches.
Great man. So
I would stay away from him. But the 2 Bucs that I feel the most confident in are Tom Brady and then the Bucs defense. I know I just said that points are going to be high, but I streamed the Jets defense last week and they gave up 37 points. So maybe don't listen to me. However, they scored they got a pick 6, and I think against Nick Foles and a weak offensive line, the Bucs are going to be able to get a lot of pressure. They're going to be able to get some turnovers to sort of mitigate, even if it is kind of a high scoring game. So I would feel pretty comfortable going with the Bucs defense in this one.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I'm starting the Bucs this week, so hopefully they can pick apart that offense of the Chicago Bears. Now, Connor, on Monday, I put $50 on the Falcons. Just for shits and giggles, and so help me win some money back. What do you got going on tomorrow? I want to make some money.
The spread on this game is Bucs are -3.5. Which I feel like is too tight. I honestly think that this game is there for the over could be a little tough. It's set at 44.5 points. I'm still going to take the over, and I'm definitely going to take the Bucs to cover in this one. I like Chicago, and I think they play decent defense, but this team is different than the Indianapolis Colts. I think you're going to be facing an offense that's elite. So.
The Bears beat Detroit, the Giants, and the Falcons, and then lost their first real test to the Colts. And they've switched quarterbacks. Their offensive line is still porous. I don't think the Bears are anywhere near a 3-1 caliber team.
No, you don't know what to expect from that offense, really. I mean, it's just because of the changing of the quarterbacks, and also that they're just not really that potent as of yet. So,
but the Pats are playing without their starting quarterback. So, like, what do you do? Like, how much faith do you have in that offense?
Wait, are you talking about the Bucs?
Oh, it's the Bucs. Never mind.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say, Jesus, I better go change my lineup
Costco
right now.
wine, man. It really fucks you up.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, no. Brady will be playing, and I thought
Brady took the brand with him.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. I got Jesus, Teddy. You just scared the shit out of me. All right.
That's good. All right, so Connor, you're on the Bucs.
Yeah.
Taking the Bucs, Matt. You're taking the Bucs.
Taking the Bucs.
Teddy's taking the Patriots in this one.
Yep.
Give me the Pats and the points, God damn it.
Who do you like? Who do you like this week, Ted?
This is everything has to do with watching Nick Foles play last night, but like I like the Bears to sneak it out. Like there's something about him. There's something about Nick Foles. So
Big Richard.
I'm gonna go with it. Yeah, it's probably gonna equalize our records, but.
All right. Yeah, I'm taking you guys know I always talk about offensive line, and the Bears do not have one, and the Bucs have a really good pass rush, and they have the number one rush defense in the NFL. They could have been dead last and still pretty much stopped the Chicago Bears. So I'm taking the Bucs in this one as well. So Teddy, you're lone wolfing it over there.
Cool. Well, if they win, separation.
Boom.
For sure. All right. Well, going to get into the next segment. And I guess we're going to just talk about some of our primetime games here. And that makes sense because we need to really start talking about the games that are going to be a lot more meaningful as the season progresses. So Sunday night, we got a good one. We got the Vikings at the Seahawks. The spread of this game right now is the Seahawks, and this is understandable, they're -7. This game screams Seahawks. I mean, the favorite to me, but the over/under is 57. I don't know how you guys feel about Minnesota going on the road and putting up a lot of points against the Seahawks, but really the tale of this season has been the Seahawks offense. So I don't know. 57. I might feel pretty good about the over there, but I definitely feel comfortable about the spread being -7. So you guys want to talk more about this one?
Yeah, I think the headline of this game is going to be the Seahawks wide receivers versus the Vikings young secondary. People have been putting up points against Seattle, so I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins pulls a magic hat, because Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, the rookie, have seemed to be running on all cylinders over the last couple of weeks. But as far as the Seahawks go, Russ is definitely cooking. Okay, Lockett and Metcalf, they should really feast in this matchup going against two rookie corners. The Vikings defensive line could get to Russ a little bit here, but the Seahawks balance on offense will ultimately be too much for the Vikings to handle. Chris Carson has been playing really well for a 7th round running back. I never liked him, but I'm starting to become a believer, and it's only taken me 3 years. Dalvin Cook, he'll keep the Vikings competitive in this, and the Vikings will use a lot of play action pass as they usually do. But it's Seattle in this game.
Yeah, I'd just say, from a fantasy perspective, I would roll with everybody who is in this game, except for the defenses. If you have a bye, like Teddy, I would go with Kirk Cousins in this game. Sure. Because the Vikings offense has scored a lot of points. I mean, even in their blowout, like even they got blown out against Green Bay, they ended up scoring like 35 points or something. They have the ability to make it up in garbage time, like the Cowboys, and now they're starting to get that earlier in the game too. I still don't know about Justin Jefferson. I mean, he had that huge 175-yard game. He seems to be more of like the big play guy, kind of like a Marquise Brown, a Hollywood Brown kind of thing last year, where you're not necessarily sure like what kind of receiver he's going to be. But he definitely has like that big play potential. And so, yeah, I would roll with Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen, and certainly Dalvin Cook. You can't take him out of your lineup right now. Yeah. 57 is such a steep ask for the over under, but they're probably going to get there, right? I mean, it's probably going to be 35-30.
That's basically my only point here is 30-27 seems like a fair score for this game. And it's hard. Yes, we have like a couple weeks to like predicate these predictions, but like you can't ask football teams to win games like 30 something to 30 something every week. I could see the game script going differently where they just like, I don't know, someone gets in someone's head, or like they now they have a couple weeks of game film that they can prepare for. So like, I don't feel comfortable taking the over. I don't necessarily say I'm going to like bet the under, but like I'm kind of staying away from the over under on this one.
I don't know. 37-21 sounds pretty good to me, Ted. Thanks a lot. All right. Well, I mean, we got another primetime matchup that we want to touch on. That's Monday Night Football. Although Monday Night Football has kind of been devalued in the NFL, even though it used to be the best game of the week as far as I was concerned.
Hold on. Before we go into this, can we take one beat and say that I think that the announcing on Monday Night Football has been excellent this year.
Yep. I was going to bring that up in the 4-minute drill. Like there's been such a marked improvement in Monday Night Football's broadcast.
It. Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about it is those weird ass graphics, like where they try to like recreate like somebody and just looks totally fucking
it's
bizarre.
Cartoony. It's cartoony.
And like, it's like Aaron Rodgers in an ice cream shop, like licking ice. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop it. It's a football game. You have actual photos of them. Just use those. We don't need to do this weird CGI thing. But the announcing crew is great.
Yeah, I think
from listening. Go ahead, Ted.
I mean, it's been fluid, and there's a lot of like consternation about the fact that there's still 3 guys in the booth, and like I haven't noticed it at all. It's been awesome. Like it's been enjoyable. Mm-hmm. They all have like salient points to make consistently. I think that the play-by-play is way better than it was last year. I'm a big fan.
No, I think Levy, just because I've known him through ESPN, but also like hockey, he's got a really good voice, and I think that's important. But he's also really affable. Aside from his little hiccup there with Elair, which was just miserable and terrible to listen to. But
fucking hiccup.
Apart from that, I really have enjoyed the Monday night broadcast.
Yeah. I think the one thing to take away before we move on to the actual game is that I don't notice them, which is a good thing. It's just like I'm watching a football game, which is what you should be doing. When you're listening to Jason Witten or when you're listening to Booger McFarland, it's like nails on a chalkboard where you're just like, I just want to focus on the game. There were plenty of games over the last 2 years where I just muted and just watch football because it was just that bad. These guys, I love Riddick. Like he is just absolutely awesome. He's well-spoken. He knows what he's talking about because he played the game, but he talks about it really well. I love him. Brian Greasy, I barely notice. And Levy's all right.
But Greasy's really sharp and his insights are unique. And I think that you lose, I think I mentioned this in our chat, like his voice and Riddick's voice are pretty close to each other.
Very similar.
So he may be saying something, you have no idea it's him.
Yeah. I think it's worse. It's worse to listen to. The other broadcasters, I will say, I'm very much annoyed continuously by Tony Romo. That listening experience for me is miserable. But anyway, I'm really happy that Monday night is as smooth and not noticeable as Nance and Romo. Okay, so Monday Night Football this week we got a good one. Chargers at Saints. So the line for this game it's going to be -7.5. The Saints at home. And the over-under is 50.5. So Saints, Herbert playing well. I like the over again, even though we do have some key match injuries. And I mean, the Saints losing Michael Thomas is an issue. I don't know if he's going to be able to. He's questionable. He's not totally ruled out, I guess, as per ESPN. But I don't think he'll play. I don't think the losses for the Saints are quite match up to what the Chargers could be dealing with if Bulaga cannot actually play. I think he's a big part of that offensive line. But 7.5 seems fair, especially for a young quarterback going into New Orleans. Obviously, there's no fans in the stadium, so it's not like the dome as it typically would be. But I like the Saints -7.5, and I like the over again.
Fair. I think there's a lot to look at in this game. It's got a lot of good storylines, but the headline that I'm picking out for this game is that this is a pivotal game for Drew Brees. Okay, for the Saints to win this game, Drew Brees is going to have to throw deep because the the LA Chargers play really good defense. Mainly they're playing zone. So what that does is that's pretty much keeping everyone in front of them. And where the Bucs started to beat them is the receivers got behind the coverage. And Tom Brady was able to make those throws deep down towards the corner or towards the sidelines past the safeties. Drew Brees is going to have to make those throws. So we're going to see if Drew is actually capable of making those throws because we haven't seen that so far this season. I mean, that's kind of been the narrative of Drew Brees and the Saints is that, you know, his average depth of target is like 3 yards and his leading receiver is Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. So the Saints have so much speed on their offense. They're going to have to utilize it. They're going to have to get behind the zone of the Los Angeles Chargers. This is terrible. So again, can Brees make those throws? Justin Herbert, he's going to take over in New Orleans. New Orleans has really suffered on the back end of their defense because they have not been able to rush the passer that well. So their corners, Janoris Jenkins, he's made a couple plays. Marshawn Lattimore is not the same guy. Even having the safety, Malcolm, what the hell is his name?
Jenkins?
Whatever. Yeah, Malcolm Jenkins. Thank you. Even having him there, he's a little bit long in the tooth, and he just hasn't been the same player that he was in Philadelphia or that he was in his first iteration over there in New Orleans. The Saints secondary just has not looked the same. And I think Justin Herbert, the way that he's playing, I think he's going to tear up that Saints defense and come away with a win.
Wow. Two of those guys are banged up, Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins. So they're both questionable for this game. Which is why I was feeling good about the over. I feel that the Saints will outscore the Chargers in this one.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you guys have said. I would just throw this into the conversation. Those guys in the secondary, if they all play, if 2 out of 3 play, they're veterans and they're going up against a rookie quarterback. And the thing about the Saints defense, coordinated by Dennis Allen, is that they will throw a million different looks at you. And I think that Justin Herbert, it's going to be a litmus test for him to see how much he really understands how to dissect an NFL defense. Because Dennis Allen, it confused Aaron Rodgers. If it confuses Aaron Rodgers, it's going to confuse Justin Herbert. And a lot of those big plays that you saw against Tampa, Justin Herbert is a really exceptional and accurate deep ball passer. But can he read a defense and then make a throw on time within 20 yards? I mean, that's what we're going to find out, right? Nothing indicates that he can't, but he's going to be forced to do that in this game with a bunch of really exceptional veteran secondary members and a defensive coordinator that's just going to throw the kitchen sink at him and really try to confuse him. So I'm excited just to see how far Herbert has to go or how far he's come, whatever it may be.
I think you saw sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Teddy, here, but just to touch on your points, Matt, I think you saw the same game plan coming out of Todd Bowles last week in Tampa Bay. They threw the kitchen sink at him, and Justin Herbert in college was the best quarterback against the blitz. And that's what Dennis Allen is going to do. He puts up so many guys on the line of scrimmage. And I'll tell you what, this leaves your corners and your safeties on an island. And I just don't think the secondary of the New Orleans Saints is playing well enough. I mean, Keenan Allen is one of the best route runners. And he talk about veterans. He is one of, if not the best third down option in the NFL. He's going to be, and look, I don't know who the offensive coordinator is for the Chargers. I don't know, but he had an excellent game plan last week against, Tampa Bay. So I think he's going to come out with an equal game plan, a lot of counters, a lot of misdirection, a lot of play action. And I think it's going to be a very good game. Probably the best Monday night game of the year so far.
It should be good, but they might be down Eckler, or they will be down Eckler. And then Bulaga. And I mean, and he would be going up against Cam Jordan. Is that right?
Yeah, but there's no one else on that defensive line that really threatens me.
I know, but he's a really good player. Like
Yes,
he can fuck shit up. And again, like this is not to say that it's going to throw a wrench into everything that the Chargers want to do. I just think it's going to be a really, really tall task for Herbert. And there's no indication that he can't overcome it. If he does, it's going to be really impressive. It's just I think it's just we're setting the table for a really interesting matchup.
Yeah.
Hey Teddy, you've been waiting really patiently, and I just wanted to just open the floor to you if you want to speak on this game.
Thank you, Connor. I'm really focused on Brian Bulaga because he's like a top 5
Shut
talent
up, Teddy.
that the Packers
Bulaga!
like the 26th pick.
That's right.
All I really want to say is that, and I think that this conversation makes me double down on this opinion. I am way more confident in the Seahawks -7 than I am in the Saints -7.5. I think that this is Monday Night Football is going to be a very interesting game. I think the Seahawks could easily clear that and just blow the Vikings out because they don't know what they're doing this year so far. And so that's it. Like I'm much more confident in the Seahawks than I am in the Saints. I think that this could be a fun game. I think the Chargers maybe like catch some magic or something that makes it competitive and fun.
Sure. Yep. Like that.
All right, boys. Well, we've definitely covered the primetime games. We're going to get into our quick 4-minute offense here. I'm just going to start with one topic, and we'll wrap this up really quickly because this week I'm going to probably fall to sub 500 football in our fantasy league due to the fact that I'm dealing with 2 Packers and a Lions player going on the bye. Now, one game under 500 is okay for me. I know the season is still young, but what I'm concerned about is what is happening with our league in that Teddy and Matt are cellar dwellers. Do you guys want to elaborate on that at all, or what's going to happen here in the next 4 or 5 games?
I think I've been competitive in every game. I've been like at 130 every game. I got George Kittle last week in all 3 of my leagues. He scored 40 points in our league. What the fuck are the chances of that happening? The tricky thing is that it's so early in the season that there's nobody that I want to drop or really trade away. Like I still like the team that I drafted. It's just they need to like play well in the same week, and then I need to not go up against George Kittle in the future.
Yeah, I'm suffering from the same affliction. My team does have the most points against by a landslide, but I also have like very unimpressive points for. Like I might have the lowest. So like I get it. Like my team is not good, apparently. But I don't not like the team.
I know.
I'm struggling with it. I don't have a whole lot of arguments for it, but like I don't like everyone's like, oh, we're week 1 frenzy for free agency, but like I don't necessarily want Darrell Henderson. Like I'm not more confident in him than I am in like Ezekiel Elliott and Ronald Jones and Miles Sanders. Like I feel like I'm okay with my running back situation. I think that I'm getting burned by Deshaun Watson. I thought that he was going to produce a lot higher, but it turns out that Bill O'Brien sells Subarus on 202.
That's right.
No, I honestly,
Ted,
I'm not getting
to be fair. I gave you a
it.
pretty good out a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I got some tight ends. So like, if you want, if you're interested in maybe dealing Mahomes.
Well, we could definitely talk.
Well, shit.
That was all that I had to say, fellas. I don't know if you guys want to open it up for anything else.
It's collusion.
I have 2 quick things that I would like to touch on real quick. The first is just kind of like oh shit. Okay, so the big news in the NFL this morning was Stephon Gilmore tested positive for COVID-19. So this test came to light this morning, but it was taken yesterday, Tuesday, a day after they had just played the Kansas City Chiefs, and a couple hours after he was seen, I believe the kids call it dapping up Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game and talking a face mask to face mask conversation. Be interesting to see what happens there on the Chiefs side as far as COVID testing, but that would be a big blow to the NFL. So I'm really glad that they brought out harsher restrictions for everything COVID. And we kind of touched upon this earlier in the show, and I really want to bring it up. When the Packers hired Matt LaFleur, I was not a fan per se. I just thought that they were winning because of the talent that they had there. But Matt LaFleur is actually, and watching him in a primetime matchup where he's not getting destroyed by the San Francisco 49ers, it was really amazing to see the game plan that he had, how he utilizes all of his players. The Packers were without both of their starting wide receivers and torched a secondary that was severely injured, playing with their 5th and 6th safeties on the depth chart. But regardless, that offense and the game plan that they have, as you talked about, Matt LaFleur is one of the brightest, if not the brightest, young offensive-minded head coach in the NFL, and it's become apparent. I forget, it may have been ESPN who put up the stat that there's only three coaches who are like 17-3 in their first 2 seasons as an NFL head coach. It was Tom Landry and Bill Walsh. So that's saying something.
Yeah, LaFleur's great. What I will say is that he definitely runs a unique system that's different than Shanahan and different from McVay. Similar, but LaFleur has his own taste and whatever. Mm-hmm. But the biggest difference is that in San Francisco and in Los Angeles, they don't have Aaron Rodgers to operate that offense. Nowhere even close to Aaron Rodgers operating that offense. They also don't really have Aaron Jones, and they don't have Devontae Adams. I mean, if you look at those style of offense when they have playmakers, when they have Todd Gurley, the Rams go to the Super Bowl. When Kyle Shanahan has Matt Ryan, they go to the Super Bowl, right? So if you have if you can figure out how to get those top tier players into this style of system right now in NFL history, you're defenses just don't stand a chance. I mean, the Packers are making it look so fucking easy. I've never seen anything like this in all my years watching the Packers. Never.
Yeah, it's been wild to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, that's over. All I want to do is read Mike Tomlin's quote about Derek Watt's availability for this week. In this, so it's and you have to imagine Mike Tomlin saying this. Derek Watt has been running some. We'll see if he can do the unanticipated movement that encompasses football play, and if he can, we'll let that be our guide about potentially including him.
That's awesome.
Mike Tomlin is the most wordy, smithy man I've ever listened to ever. It's amazing.
He really is.
But I get it. I get what he's trying to say. It's the unanticipated movement is just is a side to side. You don't it's one thing to run in a straight line. It's another to play football. And gosh, on the podium, he's just churning this stuff out. Yeah. That's crazy. How does he do it?
There's 2 coaches. Go ahead, Matt.
No, you go.
There's 2 coaches that I love to watch on the podium. One is Bill Belichick, and the other is Mike Tomlin.
For completely opposite reasons.
Mike Tomlin could win a game, right? 38-10, and he's up there on the podium, looking like he's gonna murder someone, and just the stuff that he says is just absolutely brilliant. It's similar to Bill Belichick, but so different that it's just they're both great. And
did you see the Bill Belichick? There's a meme of him that went around a few weeks ago that was is there anything like playing in an empty stadium? While I think it was
practice.
Yeah. I wonder how those conversations went when they were thinking about signing Cam Newton. He's these guys are shit, so we should probably get a better guy, and he's available.
Practice.
Then the worst part is the reporter kept trying to get more out of him, and he's just
no, it's
and then the guy who's controlling it, he's I think we're gonna have to move on to the next question.
Matt, what was your point?
Cordell Stewart. It was my point. So I was thinking about, I took to heart when we were talking about the Steelers quarterbacks, and I thought like, oh wow, Ben Roethlisberger is really going to go like at sometime soon. They're going to need a new quarterback. And so then I started thinking about like, well, what type of quarterback do I want to see in Pittsburgh? And I guess I started thinking about like, I don't know. Like I just think like a running quarterback, like an athletic multiple quarterback would be really good in Pittsburgh. Like maybe it was because of Michael Vick, like his brief time there, but more than likely it was because of Cordell Stewart. And so then I went back to look at his stats. Like he had 2 seasons where he brought the Steelers to the AFC Championship game where he threw for over 3,000 yards, and pretty much he got no other opportunity. Bill Cowher constantly tried to put quarterbacks in front of him to play. They never set him up to they never set him up to succeed like in the years between those 2 Super Bowl runs, and they just kind of let him go. Like they never like gave Cordell Stewart a full chance. And when you watch him play and you look at those highlights and you see the success, well, he could be like Cam Newton or Lamar Jackson if he was playing today.
Yeah.
Who did he ever play for another team?
Yeah, he played for Chicago for 1 year, and then he played for the Ravens for 2 years.
And that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like he wasn't even that old. I mean, he was super talented. I had the poster of him in my room.
I know.
Like,
wait, so how long was his like good run though in Pittsburgh? Like, because I remember he had some really good years.
So he played. I think he played 8 years in Pittsburgh, and he started like that's the craziest thing about Cordell Stewart. He started as a wide receiver, and in the middle of that quarterback run, he had like a game where he caught like 100 yards, just in the middle of being quarterback. Like he just switched to a receiver. Like I don't know if there's ever been a more athletic quarterback than Cordell Stewart. We don't know his full potential because he was playing at the wrong time.
Yeah. Because there were 4 years maybe where he was the starting quarterback, maybe 3.5 if I recall. Yeah. But he played really well.
Colorado, right?
AFC Championship. Yeah. He threw the Hail Mary thing, and then he almost brought that team to 2 Super Bowls. Like against the Broncos, Super Bowl 32 year. He had 4 turnovers in that game, and they lost by 3 points. Whoa. So if he wins that Super Bowl, totally different story. Cordell Stewart, Hall of Famer, Steelers quarterback, up until like 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so that's a relevant aside that I just wanted to throw in there.
Well, irrelevant asides are what I live for. So thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. Well, fellas, I mean, that's all for me. I don't know about you guys, but that's it. All right. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. And we'll see you next week. It's a pleasure, boys.
See ya.
Always.